Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is probably going to be a long video, but I want to say thank you so much for all the complimentary comments that you guys have been giving me, man. You guys are just so amazing, and that's why I love bringing you guys these videos, especially if they're informative videos regarding anything new that these games implement. So thank you so much. Now, what we're going to get into, guys, is a few different little things. We're going to talk about Mukai. We're going to show a little Tower of Illusion gameplay with Mukai, a free character that everybody got. And I do want to touch on the selector that everybody got today from the login event. Now, in this selector, guys, there are a lot of amazing characters in here. In fact, I would argue that they're all amazing, depending on who is your actual favorite. And in my opinion, if you don't have a character max out, that's who you should actually go for first. You should always go for your favorite, especially now with the new plugin system. You'll just find that these characters are just going to get a whole lot stronger. However, if you're looking for, like, say, meta characters or characters that might be useful, characters they might not have, they can prove to be useful, then I got a few recommendations for you. So starting from the bottom, guys, as far as damage dealers, as far as the meta, especially if you're near like A5, Chris and Shermie, Jeanette, and Lady Guinness are at the top of the food chain when it comes to damage. They are insanely strong characters, especially Lady Guinness, because she has that Limitless. Limitless is just godly because she can do her default over and over and over, which means she's pretty much in an iframe the whole time. It's OP as hell, but I wouldn't take nothing away from these other characters. They are insanely strong. I don't know how the 80s challenge is going to be here in a little bit, but Chris was actually insane for the most previous 80s challenge, so we'll see how that plays out. And then after that, as far as damage, guys, I would definitely go with Kula, Mai, Leona. They are next in line, along with Iori. Shane is strong, but he's a little tricky to use. But Iori, especially after all the buffing supports that we've gotten and the new card sets, this guy can be quite godly. Plus, he has an amazing leadership. Lung has an amazing leadership for male type fighters. Hotaru is actually a very, very good support, which leads me into the next topic of discussion. There's a lot of characters that can actually be really good supports. As far as the best supports, Kazumi, easily one of the best supports in the game, and Shizuru. They are insanely strong ass supports, but really Jeanette can be a really good support. Kula, Mai, Leona can all be really good supports. Lung is a very, very good support, especially at A5 if you have her 3PG. Hotaru is actually a really good support. The leadership for female fighters is actually really good. However, it's not really going to work on UE fighters because her leadership actually increases EX fighters attack by 30%, so you'd only get 30% female attack to female fighters. Athena has an amazing leadership like Iori with the increased EX fighter attack by 40. Well, actually, this goes up to 50%, and the critical damage actually goes up to 35%. So her and Iori really have insane leaderships. Lady Chen can actually be a pretty good support. Lung is actually a decent support. Actually, Dual Lung actually might be really good in the plug-in plant because of the decreased damage received from its core. He just doesn't take any damage at all. Plus, he adds support buff. So in that plug-in plant, I mean, I'll be testing it out, but I think this guy's actually going to be really, really good. And Lady Choi is a time attack freaking god. She is absolutely nuts in that damn thing. Shermie here, this version of Shermie, something that is really awesome about her and that might get overlooked is that on her third skill, she gives a heal, you know, every time she uses this skill. This can be pretty damn insane, especially in a game mode where you're trying to give heals over and over, like say in the plug-in plant. So when you're farming for red plugins, she could be a good asset, but they need to be A3 in order to be able to be used in that plugin plant. So do keep that in mind. So if you're pretty much around that A3 era and you want to have a character that can add a lot of extra survivability to your team, then Shermie really could be, especially for auto farming in the final stage of the plugin plant, because all three characters are on the team. And if she's on the team, she's actually going to provide a heal for your red team. And she also has some nice little extra damage supports as well after the buffs that she did receive. Kyo is also quite strong after the buffs that he did receive, especially if you have him at A5. But it's always a good idea to really bet on your favorite characters, because we do know that they have buffed EX characters in the past. Characters like Kyo and Shermie, they have been buffed. So they could buff other characters like Angel in the future, Cronin in the future. But ever since the introduction of UE characters, we really don't know if they're going to do that. I really hope that they do. So I always kind of just recommend just really to go for your favorites. But that's just a brief overview of all of these characters. So let's talk a little bit about Mukai. Now, this is a character that we all got at A5 completely for free in the game. And we actually could take him to level 60 automatically, because whenever you level up the affinity for a UE character, you're going to get 700 shards, and then you can actually get 300 more shards from the exchange shop, giving you 1,000 shards, giving you one extra primary shard, and then you can actually take them to A6, which is phenomenal. That's really awesome that Netmarble has done this. And you guys can look at the CP. This is something about these UE characters that's just nuts, is their CP gain is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, when you look at the amount of stats that they have, guys, like it gets pretty ridiculous. I mean, 803,000 HP, 693,000 attack, 125,000 defense. I mean, it just gets nuts. And some of these other characters, their critical damage will get over 400%, and just it gets really ridiculous with these characters. Now, when it comes to this guy's core effects, we'll talk about all these here in a little bit, but he's got, I mean, guys, blast skill damage increased by 250%, critical rate with 25. I mean, this stuff is nuts. Increased attack by 700%, increased defense by 200%. It's really nice. He got the 30% PG rate, right? He's immune to petrify, fear, shock, and poison. He decreased damage received by 80% when HP is 65% or below. I mean, the thing about Mukai, guys, is he's just a tank. He's an absolute monstrous tank. He also has a damage immunity core, which is very, very nice. He increases defenses up to 50% for 10 seconds when attacked, which again increases his survivability, increases defenses of all teammates, including self, by 50% of own defense for 10 seconds upon using active skill 3. So whenever you're using him in a game mode, like say the plug-in plan, when you're farming, using your third skill, you're going to increase everybody's defenses by 50%, making all of the characters on your team a lot tankier, right? Adding more survivability to them, which makes them really good for auto farming. And then you have the battle instinct. When the battle starts, increase attack by 100% of defenses. Insane, guys. So the more defense that he has, the more attack that he's actually going to have. And we do have card sets in the game that do increase your attack based off of defense. So even if you don't have the new set in the game, you can actually put like other sets on, like the Chaos set or the old Athena set, to really buff up his damage. While gigantic, basic attack damage increased by 1,000% for 3 seconds upon using active skill 2, right? We're going to talk about his rotation here in a little bit. Increase active skill damage by 350%. Right? And then they get into all these other little goodies, which we'll touch on in a little bit. So a mistake that I made in the last video is I was talking about whenever you use the awakened skill, this is going to put you into the phantom state. Whenever you hit the awakened skill, it turns the other skill into a phantom UE skill. It turns it into the phantom UE break, right? But whenever you don't hit the awakened skill and you just hit the UE skill, which is where the EX core normally is, whenever you hit the UE skill, you'll actually get this buff where you actually get a shield and you'll get 100% of your own defenses for 3 seconds. And then you have the phantom UE skill, which is pretty awesome, guys. We talked about all these buffs depending on the bars. I've already explained all that stuff. But you do gain ultimate shield, which absorbs normal damage equal to 100% of defense for 6 seconds. So this is a 3-second shield instead of this is a 6-second shield instead of the 3-second shield from your UE skills. So remember, whenever you hit the EX core where there normally is the first time, and you're not in the phantom state, it's just going to be a UE skill, right? Whenever you hit the EX core, you're just going to get this buff right here. Whenever you hit the awaken skill first, it will actually convert the UE skill into the phantom ultimate break, where you're actually going to get this 6 seconds of the shield. So that was just a little correction I wanted to make from the last video. And then we have the active skill 1, which, inflicts phantom damage, it decreases target defense by 80%, increases own physical damage by 50%, petrifies the target, which is awesome. Guard included. He also has, increased damage received by 100%, which is massive, guys. The deal physical damage equals 5,000% of attack, which is also very, very strong. And then this skill here, which you can actually tap twice. First time you hit it, you'll get the hyper armor for 5 seconds, guys. Adding to his tankiness, changes basic attack to rock throw, which is pretty interesting. Deals physical damage equal to 1,000% of attack every time the skill lands on nearby enemies. And then whenever you tap it the second time, then you'll be gigantic. You'll increase your defense by 100%, increasing his attack and increasing basic attack damage by 1,000% for 5 seconds upon use. Which means that when he throws rocks, he's going to have a lot of damage doing this skill. And then when we move on, right, his finisher skill petrifies the targets, which is really, really good for some CC. That's actually quite godly. And then you guys can take a look at the build, right? We have max capsules on him. He's all leveled up. Well, he's just A6 at the current moment. And I am using these 3 UE skills or 3 UE imprint stones. And then I actually got lucky and I actually had this one here, which actually increases his defenses. And increases defense type fighter attack by 12%, and then increased blast skill, which is actually very, very good for Mukai because he does have blast skills within his kit. And then this last one isn't really nothing, guys. It just gives him increased attack by 10%. So it really isn't the max build for the character. Then we get into the core, guys. You want to level up his attack. You want to level up his defenses, penetration. These are really going to help him. The defense is going to actually help us attack quite a bit. And I actually had the overpower leveled up to actually increase his overall points, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. And then as far as his EX cores, the second and third skill, you want to max out those first. Those do the most damage. And then the first skill is going to be the next one. And then you're going to level up your ultimate break and your phantom UE skill, which we already talked about. And his striker bonus is actually really, really good because it does increase activity numbers by defense by a certain percentage. The more you level it up, the higher percentage it's actually going to be. So if you're using a character that has attack based off defense, this striker bonus is actually going to add a lot of damage on top of survivability to that character. That's actually quite nice and actually probably will be undervalued by a lot of players. And then we get into the card set. Now, I'm actually using the OP card set, but guys, there's other sets that you can use, like the Chaos set actually is very, very good. Even for what I'm going to show you today, the Chaos set would actually get it done. Or if you actually have the Athena set, this set right here is actually quite godly as well. And then we're using the option cards that actually came in the game. You could also use the Shizuru set. Ono Boy, this set right here also will increase your defenses and increases attack equal to 50% of defense. So you could actually use this set as well. Honestly, you got the Chaos set, the Shizuru set, the Athena set. All can be a good set for this character if you don't have this set right here. And his 3PG just increases his defense by 50%, increasing his damage because he does have a damage buff based off of his defense. So whenever you're playing with this character, guys, the rotation that you want to use is you always want to start with the third skill. You want to start with the third skill because you want this gigantic. Thanks so much for the subscription. You want to start with this skill because you want to increase your defenses by 150%. And then you want to use the first skill because it's going to increase your physical damage for 10 seconds. It's going to decrease target's defenses by 80%. And then you're going to use the second skill last because it will increase that target damage received. This is where your bread and butter is because of the core with the second skill. Because while gigantic attitude skills cooldown resets upon using the final basic attack, Rock Throw. And the funny thing about this, guys, is I'm not going to be using any basic attacks. He does a lot of damage when he does his basic attacks, but I'm not going to be really doing his rock throws. I'm just going to be using his skills in this run that I'm going to show you. I'll probably do another video, maybe showing his basic attacks off, maybe against a guild raid or something like that. But this video is already long enough as it is. So let me show you guys what I was able to do with this character in a pretty insane game mode, which is Tower of Illusion, right? So in Tower of Illusion, you're going to need a certain overall point recommendation for these game modes. And yes, after you clear one of these, you cannot play it again, which I was kind of worried about. It was going to be similar to Tower Trials, and I really don't like that. But one thing about this game mode, guys, is that you're going to need a certain amount of power in order to be able to do this, right? Now, you can see my OP or overall points is at 2425. And the way to level that up is by using your plugins. The higher power on your plugins, the more OP points that you're actually going to get. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So you see this power 41, right? And you see this power 32, okay? So we'll click on this, we'll click on this, and we'll click here, right? So you can see that we're losing a lot of HP. We're going to lose a lot of phantom attack, but we're going to increase our phantom attack here, and we're going to increase our defenses. So we're actually going to add CP whenever we equip this thing, but because the power is actually lower, our overall points will actually be lower. So let me show you what I'm talking about. We'll click off of that. We'll click on here and watch. Boom, our CP just went up, but look at overall points. Now it's at 2405. Whenever I equip the higher level or the more powered up plugin, boom, we just lost 8,000 CP, but now we have 2425. And this is really where it's at in Tower of Illusion. You need to be over 2,400 points in order to be able to do this. This is a level 60 character, guys. They recommend level 90 for the Tower of Illusion floor 1. So let me pull a run for you guys, and let me kind of guide you through exactly what I'm doing. So in the run here, guys, we're just starting off with the third skill, hit it twice, hit the first skill, and we just build up our 3PG and do a 3PG. Now, notice that I'm not using any buffs at this given time, and yet we're doing damage. We're doing damage to these bosses. Again, if you have your overall points at 2,400 and above, you're going to do damage to the Tower of Illusions. Now, you're going to have quite a few things in this game mode that are extremely difficult to deal with. One, the mobs. Two, the little dot balls, those little balls that shoot a little array or a little laser out. You want to make sure you're on the opposite side of those damn things, or that you're far enough away from them to where they can't hit you, because those things can apply CC effects to you, stun, petrified. They can apply dot. They can do and whenever you do get stunned, you do get petrified, you can take a lot of damage. Now, you can actually alleviate that by putting certain plugins on them, but I find really damage is really where it's at. Maybe later down the road with higher level plugins, maybe it's going to be a different story, but right now I just really find that damage is where it's at. And having these characters like Cosme, who's just level 90, my Pai Chin, who's just, you know, A1, they're applying a lot of extra buffs. By the way, I just have Rugas sets on them, so I can just build up the 3PG really fast. And it's really just a lot of dodging, getting on the opposite side of these opponents, so you don't take damage, guys. You're really trying to avoid being CC. So whenever those dot balls shows out, get behind them or get far enough away from them, or go into your 3PG so you don't take damage from them. If you see those circles show up on the bottom and you're like that circle right there, guys, you want to get away from that, right? When those guys come out, they shoot these big rays coming down. If you walk into those rays, a CC effect is going to be applied to you. You're got a lot of damage going to happen to you. And even with a character like Mukai at level 60, he can take a lot of damage. But obviously, guys, whenever your characters awaken to awaken level higher, a level 70, level 80, level 90, this is going to be way easier. I promise you. This is going to be way easier because you're going to take a lot less damage. You're going to be able to do a lot more damage. I promise you. Whenever you get this Mukai leveled up, it's going to be a whole lot easier. You won't need to use these buffs, and then really I don't, but you're just going to see that using buffs really just helps a tremendous amount. And yeah, I could definitely have done this with Ash and Maki, but I wanted to show y'all that you are capable of doing it with the free character that Netmarble has given us, right? I mean, and you just, seriously guys, that samurai, when he swipes out them swords, and by the way, guys, he's got a wide hitbox. If you get behind him, you'll still take damage from him. So you want to make sure you get away from, get him on the opposite side and get away from him. Right? Now, I want you to pay attention to the damage that I do to, well, Mukai boss after I apply the buffs, right? So right now we're just facing him solo, which is nice, right? But we're immune to petrify, so we don't get petrified, and that's a big thing against this boss, this Mukai boss. So that's actually really good, right? He can't really see us, so you really just have to get behind him and avoid his attacks. Now you're gonna notice a couple things that I'm gonna do in this run, right? So I'm applying some buffs from both the ladies, right? We're also getting that heal from the second skill from Pai Chin. And look at the damage, guys. Boom, look at that damage. Now watch what I do. I hit my default, so I don't take damage, right? You're gonna see what's gonna happen here. We don't get hit. I apply the shield, right? So that's a way you can actually avoid. Use your UE skill or your Phantom UE skill in order to kind of put yourself in like a little bit of a mini iframe, so that way you can avoid taking damage. Use your default whenever the boss does their default, so you can avoid taking damage from their default, like what I just showed you. That really helps you out tremendously as far as survivability. And we just lost Pi, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's no big deal. We're going to apply some buffs from Cosme here. Right? We're going to use that little skill she has there. We just want to get behind old boy. See what I'm doing, guys? It's a lot of dodge. Get to the other side, attack, dodge, go to the other side, attack. I mean, this is what you've got to do against these bosses. I mean, you cannot, especially with my, Cosme here, she will just die immediately. So we're just going to get behind him. Here we go. All right, we're going to apply some buffs. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. Get behind him. Boom. Dead, right? Dead. And I didn't even use any basic attacks for him, right? I just found it to be easier, honestly, just to go through my skills. But that is a floor 1 Tower of Illusion getting it done with my man Mukai, right? Which is pretty damn awesome, guys. A free character that all of us have gotten. I'm actually very, very happy with Mukai. Yes, I would have liked him to be in a little bit stronger, but it is what it is. I even used his own self as a striker. He's really not even the best striker. This petrify, guys, doesn't apply to certain bosses in that game mode. You're not going to petrify the samurais. You're not going to petrify those big bosses that shoot those big rays coming down. You're not going to petrify the Mukai boss. So it's kind of useless against them, but against certain characters in the mobs, you can petrify them. But really, these other strikers, if I would have used like Maki, Ash, and Magaki, little spoiler there, guys. By the way, this has been free to play. Haven't spent any money at all. Been getting really lucky on his pulls. Very happy about that. But I just used Mukai Striker just to show you guys a pretty free to play setup, man. Because these strikers on bottom, they're not really making any difference at all. It's really just using these girls, using this second skill for Pai Chin that actually gives a insane 50% heal for all your teammates. So good. And by the way, guys, you could use that Shermie that I talked about earlier, EX Shermie, where she has a heal on her third skill in this as well. Mukai didn't even have an advantage against the floor 1 Tower of Illusion. Against this one, he does because he is a purple character who has the advantage over the blue. But he didn't even have an advantage or disadvantage against the first Tower of Illusion, yet he was still able to do it. So guys, hopefully this will help you out as far as trying to get it done in Tower of Illusion. If you are struggling, just keep working on your character, leveling him up to level A7, A8, A9, and eventually you're going to get to the point to where you're going to be able to get it done in this game mode. And also let me know what you guys think about Mukai. I think he's an absolutely amazing character, especially for a free character. So guys, let me know how y'all doing in the game, and I do stream on Twitch at 9 p.m. GW7 time. The link is in the description below. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one. See everybody. Take care.